Hello and welcome to Know Before You Go, where we look ahead to the Sunday readings to give you some background information so you get more out of Mass. I'm Father Scott Steinkerchner. I'm here in Vermilion, Ohio, on my way to a family wedding. We got lovely readings this week about faith, but they don't tell you really what to believe in, but what does it mean to believe? So the first reading is the prophet Habakkuk, and he is saying, "How long, O Lord, I cry out for help, when will you hear me?" And the Lord tells him, listen, write this down in big enough letters so somebody running by can see it, because it's going to happen. And if it waits a while, well, be patient, because the rash one has no integrity, but the just one, because of his faith, shall live. Now, the funny thing is, that's where the reading ends. And we don't get to know what it is that God wants written down. What is the prophecy? It's sort of a, those who live by the sword will die by the sword. Don't worry, your oppressors will fall. But we don't get that. It just stops with, wait for it, it'll come. Okay. And then we have in our second reading from the second letter to Timothy, "Beloved, I remind you, stir into flame the gift of God that I have brought through the imposition of my hands." Paul's telling me, buck up. Welcome the troubles that'll come because of what you're trying to do, the faith you have. It'll bring you more troubles, and that's a great thing. Fan your faith into flames. Does faith always bring us trouble? Is that a good thing? Well, the gospel then, don't worry, it won't resolve it. In the gospel from Luke, the apostles say to the Lord, "Increase our faith." And Jesus replied, "If you have faith the size of a mustard seed, you would say to this mulberry tree, 'Be uprooted and planted into the sea,' and it would obey you." And he goes on, but what kind of answer is that? Well, what kind of question is that? What do the apostles want Jesus to do? To say, increase our faith? Like God forcing us to believe? Is that what you want? I don't think so. And Jesus is saying, if your faith is just this big, the mustard seed's not so big, you know. If it's that big, you could do amazing things. So it isn't the size of your faith anyway. It's the purity of it. And you don't want that to be forced on you by God. We shouldn't be asking God to increase something in us. We have to choose to believe. God gives us something to believe in, but we have to choose to believe it. And faith can't be forced on us. We wouldn't want a God that does that, just turn us into robots doing his will. We have to want it. And like in the first reading, we have to be patient. We have to say, I know what I know, and what I see doesn't seem right, isn't what God wants. But since it isn't what God wants, it's not what will stand forever. You see, that's having real faith. Trusting that what God told us is what God wants for the world. But it's got to work itself out. It takes its time. There'll be trouble in between, but it'll work itself out eventually. So we have to be patient and endure, and not just tell God, well, just increase it so I have no more worries anymore. No, we're going to worry. We're going to struggle. And I don't even know what it is we need to believe in according to these readings. That's what's so funny about the readings this week. They're about just what does it mean to have faith, but we don't get to know what it is we're supposed to believe, what it is to believe. So that's something to think about before you go to Mass. Are you a person of faith? And what does that mean? Do you ask God to just force faith on you? Or do you grow your own faith from the purity of a mustard seed? 'Tis enough. Just believe this much, but really believe through everything, and it's enough. All right, well, that'll give you something to think about before you go to Mass. God bless you.